Hello and welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi.
And I'm Chris Yi.
And today we're going to be reviewing Asian Tigers by
Pythagoras.
Yeah,
it's Pythagoras. It's got the little...
Pythagoras.
It's got the square...
I was trying to say Pythagorean games.
Oh, got it. Yeah, it's got the little square triangle right there.
Pythagoras.
What are the Asian Tigers, you ask? That's what I asked seconds before recording. Oh, it is 4 superpowers that came out of the 1960s in Asia, kind of going through a business revolution, economic revolution. You got South Korea. You got Hong Kong. You have Singapore. And you have Taiwan.
Ooh,
Did I crush it?
Did it. It was so crushed.
There we go. So Wendy's going to show you how this economic, business-driven game plays, and then we'll go ahead and give you our thoughts.
The main board in Asian Tigers is broken up into 2 main areas. So we have the 4 tigers, which all work similarly. And then the second area is this global market board, which has its own individual track and its own process. These over here are going to be mostly building buildings off of your board. And this here in the middle is when you're going to mostly be trading in goods for flags, which will help you with endgame points. The basic round structure of this game is it's going to take place across 2 rounds. So we're going to take one round, take all of our turns, go ahead and finish off all of this, and then reset everything, and then go ahead and do a second round. And then this shows the scoring that'll happen at the end of the game. The way a basic turn works is a player is going to take their leftmost worker. They're going to place it out somewhere on one of these on the board, either in the global market or in one of these 4 tigers over here. They're going to pay the cost in these particular investment points, and then they're going to choose to do one of the actions down below. Or if they come over here, they're going to go ahead and exchange stuff in the market to gain one of these flags, and then they'll place it over here on their board, depending on where it fits. Now, the end of the round is triggered by players going through and finishing all of their workers. These are different per player. They're randomly set up in this order. And in fact, there's 2 left over at the end of the round that are not used, that don't make it onto the board. So everyone's going to have slightly different setup. To briefly explain points that you're working towards at the end of the game is you're going to get points from 3 different main ways. The first way is going to be each one of these tracks is going to have an end game scoring based on whoever is in which place. So like whoever's in the lead would get 22 points, second place would get 14. Each one of those will score separately. Then these flags that you've collected over here are going to trigger these particular scoring objectives. These are based on how many tigers have met that objective. For example, this one says for every tiger that you have built, one of your science buildings, that's these white buildings at the bottom, then you would multiply that by how many stars you have next to it. Finally, the last way you get points is when you move up on this global track, you see these little numbers here. Those are going to be multipliers times the different flags that you have collected throughout the game. All right, let's take a look at these individual tigers a little bit more. They all work the same way, but they just have different symbols. At the bottom, you always have science buildings. Then you have power buildings. Then we have factories. And then we have universities. And then there are these individual markets where you could sell a single good to when you go there, and it just gives you a little bit of movement on this track. Now, science buildings, when you build them out, they come from anywhere on the board, and you place them in the area that you have access to. You'll get that many of the science tokens. Same thing with the power, comes from anywhere, you get that many power tokens. Factories have to come from this factory row, and they need to match the type of factory that you're building. They may have an additional cost. It's highly possible, but they typically cost 4 energy, and then you get 2 goods of whatever the factory is you built. You do get a discount if someone has built below here on the power plant. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as it is somebody. Finally, the university is a way to put more of these discs out. So if I go to the university, then I can place one of these little discs, or I guess buildings, out on these areas, paying the cost, but it basically gives you a second one out and some sort of bonus. One other thing to explain about these areas that's pretty pivotal is you can never have workers of the same color in different locations, and you can only ever have one colored worker in a location. For example, this is not a legal placement because the workers have to be in the same spot that match the same color. This is now only the place that white can go in this particular tiger. And so if you play a white here, it has to go there. It has to cost 3. But luckily, when it's in this A region, it has access to everything. Now, if on my turn I wanted to go with a gray to this tiger, then I could choose to put it in B or C because neither one of those has been determined. However, if I put it in B, I would have access to B and C. But if I put it in C, it costs the least amount of investment points, but I'd only have access to building or doing anything in C. Now the global market works the same way with the colored guys. So if I place out a black here, only black can go here. And so if a white wants to come out, it can go there. But if a black comes out, it cannot go there. It must go in that region in the middle. The only area that doesn't follow that rule is this down here. Anybody can go here. So how do the trade markets work? Well, you come to a location and then you have to trade in the goods to be able to meet a nation's needs. When you have met that need, then you can go ahead and take the top flag and you can place it on your board. You do want to match the symbols on the bottom left-hand corner. And depending on what the symbol is, then you get whatever that bonus is immediately. So this would give me 3 movement in one of the tiger tracks based on whatever these colors are down here. They also give you an immediate movement on the global market track. However, if you sell to more than one in an area per turn, like per action, you only ever get to move up on the global points once. So that's what this symbol over here means, is you can sell between 1 and 3 countries, but only one of them is going to score the global points. A couple other things I do want to note and point out is that as you are uncovering things on your board, you're going to be slowly revealing some of these green areas. So for example, I've removed both of these. This green area is available. I can choose to pay an investment point and move up on one of these tracks down here, 3 spaces. If I do so, I need to pay those points in that region that I move up. So if I'm going to do it in the purple region, I would go ahead and pay the one in purple, and then I would move 3 spaces onto that track. Also, it would give me the bonus in that particular region, which happens to be up here. Every region has a different bonus that is available. Some of the other things you can uncover on this board, so we have the track movement. We have these little one-time instant use bonuses that either give you more investment points or they just give you some special abilities over here. And then we have satellites. Satellites come out and basically they're just a increase multiplier for some of this end game track area majority stuff going on. There's a little area majority game. And so it will increase basically the strength of these buildings or just your pieces that are in whatever line that's in. So speaking of area majority, after everyone's taken their turn, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add up all of these battery points. And basically what it is it is 1 point per building that you've built on your board. And then anything within your satellite lines will get 1 additional point. And then if you've upgraded a factory, it will also gain an additional point. Each region is going to score separately, and it doesn't score points, but instead it scores track movement. After that, then players are going to be resetting their investment points. These always reset back to 6. Unless you have these science buildings, then each player that has a science building will actually get 1 additional investment point. Also at the end of the round, there's this cool little way to get these optional flag tokens. Just whoever's in the lead can choose to go back to the tiger that is closest to them behind and then take one of these little wild star things and place it anywhere that they would like. If they choose not to, then the next player and then the next player until someone finally either chooses to take the flag or it just gets removed from the game. At the end of the second round, you do very similar scoring stuff. You have these little points, once again, that you fill up for in the little area majority thing, but they're worth a few more points than before. And then you have all that end game scoring, which are what these little flags represent. So the gist of the game is to build buildings so that you can eventually build factories, so that those factories can then get you goods, and those goods you're going to trade into these flags, and then they're going to place them over here and try to meet these objectives, as well as try to move up on the global track for multiplier bonuses. All while doing that, you also want to individually be highest on these tracks over here. And that is the gist of how you play Asian Tigers.
So as with many area majority games, this is one where, because there's the 4 areas, the 4 tigers you're building in, it's going to be more competitive. I think the more players you have in it, right? 4 versus 3 versus 2.
Yeah, and it does change the way that scoring happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those little the little scoring amounts matter for the different player counts.
In fact, one of the critiques, unfortunately, is that at the 2 players, it's very very binary. And it's funny because the point totals don't matter in a two-player game, just the differentials. So whether you're getting 24 points for first place and 14 for second, doesn't matter as much. There's one that's like 12 versus 2 points. You're like, wait, that's a bigger differential than the higher number one, but big number look better.
Yeah, it's just less straightforward. But also those whatever the big number is determines how you lay out the initial workers that are assigned to certain regions.
Right.
So that must have to do with something when it comes to, balancing things out.
And for a majority game, I wish that it had actually, in the two-player mode, done what it did for the three-player, because the three-players play with all the same setup as four players, but you have you don't run a dummy player, but there are some little pieces out there that block the four-player board down to a three, but they also count for majority in the four tigers.
Right, which makes it more interesting because then you have to at least reach a minimum when it comes to how far you are on the tracks, how many of the buildings you have out for those battery points, also, the end game track scoring and stuff like.
So I thought that odd they include it for three, but not for two, where I think it would have actually helped the game perhaps a little bit more stand
Make it
out.
feel a little bit more interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for the look of the game and the pieces of the game, I think the wood pieces are very cool. I do wish the player boards were double layered, but that's here nor there. That doesn't affect my score at all. I do feel like the graphic design could have been cleaned up a little bit. For example, which side of the board is the two-player side of the board? It doesn't actually say. It just tells you in the rulebook use the back side. And so you have to look to see what's the edges of the punch out.
The way it's punched out, there's the front and the back, I guess, right?
Or the side that has less factories showing on it, I guess.
That's kind of what we settled on the first time. We're like, oh, got it. Yeah, more players, fewer, just say fewer spots.
Yeah.
There's minute little dot markings for if you're playing with three players, block these buildings.
Yeah.
And it's not the most attractive game. It does take place kind of through the 60s and through the boom, but it doesn't have to
look like the 60s. I don't even think it looks like the 60s. It doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, it looks like you're looking at a nuclear console from the 60s is what it is. But anyway, so I wish the game had a little more splash, a little more pizzazz to it. That being said, and once again, there are things that we complain about in game reviews that don't really affect the score.
Yeah, but I think those things are very minimal for you and me.
Right. But I can still have an opinion on them and say this game doesn't look very attractive on the table. When you get into the actual gameplay, the game is surprisingly smooth. What a turn consists of, given the fact that trying to explain this game it almost feels more complicated than it sounds like it should for how smooth the game turns are.
It does, and I think part of that is just that the end game scoring doesn't align exactly with what you're doing during the game. Obviously, you're fighting over those tracks on each one of the tiger areas, but other than that, everything else doesn't really feel like you're that exactly lining up. I build a power plant. Cool. I build a factory. Cool. That doesn't directly link to points.
There's kind of a lot of steps to get to points. As you explain what you're doing, you're like, oh, cool. Every turn, put a worker out somewhere, build some building, right? Nice. There's not money in the game, so there's not a ton of currency exchange.
That's actually something I really like about this.
Yeah.
Is that you have those investment points and that tracker resets at the beginning of the second round. And so everyone starts out equally in each one of the tigers. And you're just kind of free for all go, wherever you can put your worker go. But progressively those points work down, but you don't have to deal with that money and making change and exchanging all of that. You're just okay, we get 6 action points basically in this area. How do we want to spend them? And that's how you build. That's how you do all the stuff that you're going to do.
And one worker placement might be 3 of those action points, or it might be 1 of those action points. I find that clever.
Ooh, I want to know, how do you feel about the different colored workers and how once a space is assigned black, it's black for the rest of the round, or it's white for the rest of the round?
There's a lot of aspects of this game that I find really clever, but not necessarily fun. And that's unfortunately one of them. I think that's really clever, right? It's
unique.
Yeah. And it might be that part doesn't bother me as much as your pool of workers for the round being laid out in front of you is also random. So that feels random. And then also how they start is a little bit random. And then how players drive what the different color action spots are. I don't think that those two clever mechanisms clash together well.
They clash quite well.
Oh, they clash, right? They don't
They
blend.
clash quite clashingly.
Yeah.
No, I think I agree with you. And I think what it is that very randomized setup requires you to look so far ahead. You're like, okay, I have 4 black workers total, maybe 3. And so for any of those black worker spaces, I really need to be able to plan that ahead enough. However, because this game is so tactical and can be pretty cutthroat, that therefore I can't necessarily plan ahead because someone could come in and be like, I see you're working towards those flags. Well, that space is now a gray and you don't have any grays left on your track. Ha 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 ha. I got
Right.
you. And so I feel like the tactical mixed with that complete random setup is a little bit like frustrating.
Yeah.
And so it leads to some of those end turns being really exciting or just completely falling flat.
And that's the worry. When we finish playing, one of the first things I remember you asked me, right, at the end of the first game, like, who do you think this is for? I was like, I'm not really sure, right, because of the clash of those mechanisms. And he said, do you think this is maybe for fans of splatter games? And I was like, that's probably it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, people that don't mind that, like, I can set things up so that it really hurts you. And you have to be playing so that you're looking at what I'm doing and also making decisions that really hurt me. And it doesn't feel like a mean game. It kind of feels like,
No.
build my industries.
I do a thing.
I get some bonuses pretty frequently by throwing my buildings out there, taking them off my board. Good. I like those bonuses. Those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you've made that area so that all the workers I have left, I don't have enough of that action point power. Right, that fun. Uh-oh, this is getting messy. Oh, you restricted where I can go with the flags. This is getting messy.
Oh, you've emptied out all the flags in that particular, like, nationality. Oops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there's some good parts of this that I really enjoy, but I do think that particular type of, like, deep thinking with the very heavy interaction possible does seem to fit that splatter game kind of category. I'll have to know from somebody who plays splatter games. Have you played this? Do you really enjoy this? I'm very curious.
But also, it
Yeah,
feels like it feels like a very strategic game where from the get-go you have these kind of large things that you're trying to accomplish from start to finish. But it's also extremely tactical, so you don't know the way that the worker pools and stuff are going to come out there, and so you have to also be very flexible while trying to achieve that particular. It's not a tactical game where you're constantly zigging and zagging. No, I'm working towards specific goals and I'm setting up long-term scoring goals, but also I have to be willing to zig and zag as the player interaction kind of drags me different directions.
Yeah.
I think that is for me the mix of why I think this game is awfully clever, but not for me.
Yeah, and I can see that. Well, at the same time, you could sit down and you could play this with someone who, I wouldn't say it's a welcoming game at all. It is definitely like a medium weight game, but it's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be because those turns are very simple. I put my worker placement in an area, I pay for it, and I build a building. That is my whole turn on a lot of turns. Sure, you can unlock extra bonuses and you can have that cascading, but we see that in so many games. Like, this is not complicated. I guess it's complicated, but each individual turn is not.
It's not difficult to play, but it's challenging
It takes
to do
a
well.
lifetime to master.
How about, I don't know, any other kind of closing thoughts before we go into scores and stuff?
No, I think I'm ready for scores.
Okay. I guess I'll start. Like I said, there's many aspects of it I like, and I think that honestly, if trying to teach the scoring were simpler, I might come to this one a little bit more, or come back to it. For me, it's a 6, right? Because of all the good things about it. You know, you put out buildings. As soon as you put out 2 buildings or 3, you unlock some special power, and some of those might be just the right thing you need to give you the sauce at just the right moment. Oh, that feels good. Oh, the way that I drew out all my workers, I have nothing but gray workers at the very end of the round, and everyone else gets to determine what gray actions will be. Right? So as good as some of the parts of it are, it also just kind of rubs me wrong in other areas. So it's a 6. It's not what I'm anxious to come back to, but I could see myself playing it again because of the parts that are good, but I'm shy of recommending it.
Yeah, I'm actually coming in right at the exact same with a 6. I do feel like the actual gameplay of is pretty smooth. Like, as you go through, you're like, oh, cool, I took an action. Your turn's already done. Like, your turn's done, your turn's done. Is my turn again? Like, that's exciting. It feels good. And I don't think that I'm going to ever play this at the level where I'm sitting there and crazy APing, but I think you could, especially towards the end. And sometimes that AP is just, can I do anything? And my last couple workers, like, can I, the only place where I can play a gray is where I don't have enough investment points. I have 2 in Singapore. I could put my gray worker out there, but it costs 3. You know what I mean? There's those moments that I almost feel like it is exciting kind of in the middle, and then it kind of flops at the end because you don't necessarily have
the thrilling
you don't
turns
have the
right
thrilling
at the end.
Yeah. You don't have those big, I've been working up towards this and I finally get to like slip in and get that thing. And maybe you do. Maybe you're smarter than I am, and that's fine. But yeah, I think that that's the case. Also, we play a lot of 2-player games, and I think that this is fine at 2 players.
Yeah, I don't think it's optimal at 2.
No, but I don't think that it's optimal. And so, yeah, this is one that, once again, I'd play with people that wanted to learn it, and they felt excited about it, but I wouldn't pull it out myself.
All right, well, there you go. Those are thoughts on Asian Tigers here from Pythagoras Games. Thanks for coming out to this review of the Dice Tower. But if you have thoughts as well, please go ahead and include them in the comments below. All right. Well, thanks for coming out. My name's Chris Yi.
And I'm Wendy Yi.
Have yourselves a good time taking over the business world.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you, and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Bassett.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, nailed it. We got it.
Hello and welcome to Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi.
And I'm Chris Yi. 4th time's a charm.